Hey, how's it going? So sometimes you have a parent component that is fetching the data from an API, right? And then it's delivering it to your child component. Now the problem can be that this data can be unobservable. Well, what the way to describe it is, like, it can be coming in at intervals where you don't want it to come in because it's just refreshing itself. Now, this will cause the child to re-render if you have dependency for data. If that makes sense, so I'll show you, right? So we have a parent component, right? Blah1 is the parent component. And blah1 is delivering data to blah2. Let me just, okay. So, look, you see what's happening is that it causes unnecessary re-renders of the blah2 component. Right? This is because object this is because of this stuff, pass by reference and pass by value. So primitives pass by, like, you need to understand this concept, then you will understand why this is happening. Because objects have in memory a ID, kind of like an ID number, right? So you can think of an object, like, how to explain it? I don't know. Let's have const object, right? Equals to whatever name, like this, right? Now you need to understand this concept, otherwise it's just not going to, like, you will struggle with arrays and objects, right? So in memory this could have numbers, something like x1a_xx, right? Does that make sense? Right, so this is in memory. You don't see it, but the computer sees it, right? So when you kind of recreate this object, it's gonna be like something like x2a. Now the content of the object did not change. It's exactly the same object, right? But in memory, it has changed. Right? And because it changes in memory, React thinks now that it's a new object, even though the content is exactly the same. So for this, now this video is not about explaining what is pass by value or pass by reference. It's just how to fix it, right? So if you don't understand this concept, this video is pointless for you. Go and check pass by value versus pass by reference and understand it. Right? So, okay, so how do we stop it? So how do we stop this stuff from happening? Now, the best way to do it would be to basically do this, basically stringify the data. So we call it stringData equals to JSON, stringify props data, right? Now, I'm doing it like normally you would do structure, but whatever, I'm just doing it beginner friendly. And then we put this into a dependency. So now it will not re-render even though the object has changed. Look, you see, it only does it one time. Does that make sense? Now, the reason why this is happening is very simple, because when you convert an object into a primitive, it no longer utilizes this memory thing in the memory, because you're basically converting an object into a primitive, and primitives if primitive does not changes, then React thinks that there was no change. Does that make sense? So what we're doing is we're taking an object, converting it into a string, which is a primitive, right? And then React compares string to a string, right? Previously it was comparing object to an object. So the content of the object is exactly the same, but the ID in memory of two objects was completely different. But because we are now converting the object into a primitive, which is a string, right? It compares itself by value. So is string A equal to string 2, and because object is exactly the same, and the string becomes the same, it does not re-render. I hope this kind of explains it a little bit. I know it's confusing. Now another way of doing it, this is the best way to do it, right? The best. Ideally, you don't want to have a lot of re-renders. Well, you cannot do it in here. So this is how to solve it in the child component, right? Now, if you have it in the parent component, so we do data in here, right? Props data, I think, right? Props data. Okay, so you see the way we're passing object as an object, right? You can just put it as a string, const init data, like this. And this will stop it from doing that as well. So you see it's no longer doing it 3 times. It's just doing it 1 time. Sorry, it just sometimes freezes its Ubuntu. I don't know, recently it has been bugging with Chrome. 1 sec. Okay, so you see it's still doing... Honestly, I think it's because of OBS. It's bugging a bit. Right, so you see if you assign it to a variable, even though data is changing, oh, it's the same. Yeah. Yeah, so probably not gonna work, but anyway, if you have control over data, you can just assign it to a variable, and then it's not going to bug, right? Because you see, if you do it in here, if you do it, well, let's say we pretend that this is API, right? So every time you get a new object, there's a response. So this becomes irrelevant, right? So this will, yeah, okay, so this is now re-rendering 3 times. Yeah. Okay, so now if we do... It's not going to work in here, I think. Data2 is equal to props data. No, I don't think it's going to work. Let's see. Yeah, you see, it's still not working correctly.
Stream Arsenal v Manchester City this weekend with...
Yeah. So unfortunately, the best way to solve it is just to go do the string thing, which is like this. Which is like so. Yeah. That's probably the only way to do it. Okay, there you go. So just stringify your object and then that's it. It will stop it from re-rendering and put it as dependency. Okay, take care, bye-bye.